Hey monkeys, it's Jim from Small Time Outlaws, bringing you the 6th video in my Advanced Programming in Monkey tutorial series. In this video we'll be learning all about the module system in Monkey. So we'll be going over how Monkey tracks down these modules, and we'll also be creating a module and importing it into a little test project. And then once we've done that, we'll cover how aliases come into play when dealing with multiple modules. So to start out, we're going to create two new files in Monkey or in Monk, and just click the little new file button. And for the first one, this is going to be our main file, and I'm going to go ahead and save it as something more concrete than just a temporary file. And I'm going to put it in a tutorial folder real fast and give it a name. This is tutorial 6. And then for the other file, this is going to be our module file that we're going to be importing into our main file here. So this one we'll do the save as again, and go back to the tutorials folder, and in this one we're going to create a folder for our module, and we'll just call it test module, and then give it a name, and this name is going to be the same as our directory name, and I'll go over why I'm doing that in just a second. And now once we're in this module file, we're going to set up our module. And basically what modules are for is to have a certain chunk or a set of code that you want to be able to use or plug into all your other projects. So if you create something really useful, you probably think, oh man, this class probably should go into a module so we can use it later. The one case of that would be if you saw the generic classes video, we made that data cube, and that's something you could put into a module so that you can access in all your other projects on the fly and create your little multi-dimensional arrays. But for now we're just going to do some little simple test things to show you for educational purposes. So I'm just going to create a little global variable that you can access. Let's call it version. This is the file version of your project. And then I'll just set up a simple function to test with. It's going to greet, and we're going to greet the people running this project. Hello, human. And like I saw you, we'll just make a simple class, call it rect, and make some fields for this rectangle. Give it its x and y position, and its width, and height. And then let's make a constructor for it that just says, hey, you've created a rectangle. Whoops. And that, and the class. So that's our module. Pretty simple stuff. And now let's go back to our main file, and the way we're going to use this code that we created in this other file, I'm just going to use the import keyword. And then after the import keyword will come the name of the module. Now, I'm going to stop here and show you kind of how this import command works, how it tracks down these modules when you reference them. So I'm going to just open up the tutorials folder. So you can see here, when I say import test module, the first thing Monkey's going to do is going to look in the folder of the file that's calling this module. So in this case, it's going to look inside the current directory of tutorial 6, and it's going to look for a file that has this name and then with the .monkey extension. That's the first thing it's going to look for, and in this case it's not going to find it. So the next thing it's going to look for is a file of this name within a directory of the same name, which in this case it's going to find. It's going to find testmodule.monkey within the test module folder. So that works that way. And then finally, if it can't find that, it's going to go back and look in the modules folder of your Monkey installation for the same thing. It's first going to look for testmodule.monkey. Can't find that, it's going to look for test module folder with a testmodule.monkey file inside it. So now let's go back. Actually, let's go back to the file. So the way I have it set up is good. It's gonna find it and import it. And then I'm gonna set up our main function. And so now, if I want to print off this global variable version, I can just access it like any other global variable. So I can just print version, just like that. So I'll print that, build that, and you'll see there it is. There's our game version. So let's say once you have this module finalized, you're like, okay, I like the way this works. I want to change it. I don't want it to be called test module anymore. I want it to be called, greet. So we'll call it greet module. And I know what you would normally do is you delete test module, or you actually rename this actual file. But what I'm going to do, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to leave this here and create a new file called greet module. And now the way I'm going to import this greet module, since it's in a directory test module and not greet module, I have to, when importing, refer to that test module directory, and then using a dot to separate the directory names, I finally end with the name of the module. So in this case it's greet module. And now I'm going to leave this here because this is actually going to reference that test module.monkey. And so now that test modules being imported and greet module are being imported, and they both have the same code, we're going to run into some problems. So I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to build. Oh, look at that. Version is found in both test module and greet module. So the way to avoid these collisions, well, the first way would get rid of test module, right? Because it's completely duplicate. But let's say you've downloaded a module from someone else, and you've downloaded a module from a different person. So you got two modules created by two different people that have some collision in there, and you don't want to go and edit the modules, because the next time you update the modules you have to remember, oh, I have to change this collision every time. So one thing you can do is to differentiate between modules. You can just, let's say we'll go down here with the version variable, and you can use the module name and then a dot, and then followed by that identifier. So it's kind of like accessing static variables and functions within a class. So now that we've done that, we can run it, and it prints off just fine. And now to show you, we can do a reference test module now, and we want to run that greet function. We can do that. Look at that. Hello human. And finally, to create an object using a class inside colliding modules, you just probably guess how to do it. We're going to create a rect here, and we're going to use the greet module version. So you're going to use greet module.rect. That's the type. Assign a new greet module.rect, and we'll run that. You can see that that works. Rect created. Now let's say you're getting really tired of typing greet module.something and test module.something, or you just don't like the way it looks. Well, in Monkey, you can use the alias keyword. And what the alias keyword does is it sets up some type of some name of identifier, any kind of name you want, and it assigns it to a reference to something inside another module. So in this case, I want to shorten greet module.rect down to just GM for greet module and then rect, and then you just assign that to whatever reference you want. And just like that, you can now reference the greet module.rect using gmrect, and it looks a lot nicer. And one thing about these aliases, they have to be outside any functions or class. They have to be pretty much general rule with aliases. You want to put them right after your import statements. That way you can avoid any conflicts. And so just so you can see that my references to gmrect work, there it is, created that rectangle. And that's about all there is to modules and aliases. Not too difficult of a concept. If you have any questions, email me at jim@smalltimeoutlaws.com or leave some comments. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one.